Hi, welcome to Mr. Otter Studio. Today I'm going to respond to a request. Ellie sent me an email with a picture of her bunny, Oliver, and asked me if I would paint him. So today I'm going to show you how to draw Oliver and how to paint him using watercolor. He is a different looking bunny. He has really little ears and like a ton of long hairs on his head. So he's really cute. And I haven't done a request for a long time. So I'm excited about this. All you need are basic watercolor supplies. You need paper, watercolor paper, and I'm just using Mr. Otter Studio's watercolor paper. You need watercolor paints. I'm just using the praying set that I always use. Also, if you order Mr. Otter watercolor paper on our website, I will send you one of these paint sets with it. So that's kind of nice. And it comes with brushes, but any watercolor set will work. A paintbrush. This is the brush I'm going to be using today, and this is a number 6 round. It's the Princeton Neptune series, so I've actually really liked working with this brush. Since we are painting with watercolors, you will need watercolor supplies. So if you're right-handed, put them on the right side of your paper. If you're left-handed, put them on the left side of your paper. You need water for your watercolors. I like to have a paper towel to use. You need something to dry your brush off. And I like to have a scratch piece of paper nearby. It doesn't have to be watercolor paper. Just something for you to test your colors on, so I'll just set that up here. And you need a pencil to draw with. I'm also going to be using a micron pen. So I really love to use these when I'm doing something more illustrative. So I like to draw it in pencil, and then I go over my lines in marker, or fine tipped pen. Pretty basic supplies. We're going to be doing this more and more of an illustrative style. So we're going to put a little bow tie on his neck. You could also, you could add a hat, a coat, whatever you want. If you want to do it Peter Rabbit style, that would be great. This is Oliver. He's made up of some pretty basic shapes. So he has a round head, a round body, these round paws, and then triangle ears. His ears are tiny. Maybe he's a bunny, I'm not sure how old he is, but his ears are just tiny, tiny, tiny bunny ears. We're gonna draw these shapes, and then we'll do a little bit of the details in our pencil, and then we're going to take our pen and draw over those lines and erase the pencil. So here we go, let's draw this together. We're gonna start by drawing his circle head, and we're gonna draw a little bit over to the left side of our paper because we wanna be able to fit the whole body on this side. Draw that circle in, and then his body is going to come right next to it. So this is more of just his back. So you have this circle in here. This is gonna be the back of the bunny, and really it's kind of going like this in front of it. And then we have this little part of the front of him, this chest. So we have 1 circle, 2 circles, this little part for the chest, and then we can see 1 little paw here, and then maybe 1 behind it here. Now we're gonna draw the basic shape of his head. So it's actually coming down to his nose. So I'm just gonna draw a straighter line right here, and then over and in. Now before I draw in the ears, I just want to draw where the head is a little bit more. It comes down just a little bit lower, and then this is just all fur. So I'm just dropping that line down just a little bit, drawing this first triangle ear. It's pointing up in that direction. So it's going up in this direction, and then it's not pointy at the top, it's round, and then it comes back down. And then the next ear, we're going to draw it kind of touching this ear. So it's coming up, round, and then it comes straight down. So you can see then the head really kind of is fitting in here, this shape. His hair is gonna be crazy, poking up over that way, but this is where his head would most likely stop. All right, now I'm gonna zoom in and we'll draw some details on the face. So the eyes are about halfway between the top of the head and the bottom of the head. So I'm just gonna draw a line in here, so we know about where the eyes should be, and they're almost directly below this ear. So they're not in the middle of the shape, they're a little bit to the right side. And I'm just gonna start by drawing a circle. And we will make that look like a bunny eye, I promise. And since this head is kind of dropping down, I'm gonna make this even a little bit smaller right here. His nose comes about halfway between the bottom of the eye and the bottom of the face. So it's just kind of in here, but it's over this way since he's turned away from us. So we can see just part of it. And it's just a V. And actually, since he's turned away, it kind of goes up a little bit more on that side. So let me just draw that again. So since he's turned away from us, it's a V, but it kind of goes like this and then more up like that. And after you draw that V in, you can just draw a little line down for his mouth, over, and then it's just gonna come over that way. All right, now I'm gonna show you what I'm going to do in this eye to make it look just a little bit more like a bunny's eye. So what you're going to do is you can draw a line under it if you want and a line over it. Remember, we'll be erasing these lines. And this line, we're just gonna drop this eyelid down. So we have like this little kind of triangle shape at the bottom. And then on this side, we're gonna drop it not quite all the way to the top. We're gonna bring it down just a little bit and then bring that side up. And then we can see a little bit of the brown in his eye. So I'm just gonna draw a line where that is. And then he has this tiny little highlight. So that circle I'm going to leave white. This is gonna be black and this is brown. And then these are definitely in the shadows. Now we need to add the fur that makes Oliver look like Oliver because he almost looks like a lion. Right now he looks like a normal kind of bunny, but this is not an ordinary bunny. I don't know if he's like a lion bunny, if that exists, but he sure has like a lion's mane. Okay, I'm gonna erase some of these lines just so it's a little bit easier for you to see. And let's go ahead and start up here with this cool fur that he has going on above his eyes. And I'm gonna take some creative liberties here and illustrative liberties to kind of I'm gonna bring it down over this eye and this ear and kind of up in front of this ear. And maybe I'm gonna try to put a picture of his face like over my hand or something so you can see this. How I'm trying to make this a little bit more illustrative. Okay, so we have like this crazy hair above. And now we're gonna give him this cool, like general type beard. On this side, there's definitely some fur. It's not as crazy yet, but where it's not crazy underneath. It's just kind of like grass. That's all I'm really drawing. But once it gets over to this side, it gets pretty crazy. And once it gets to the back, it's like this long lion's mane is what I like to call it. And then we can give him a nice little bunny eyebrow up here, just some lines. And then I'm gonna just lightly draw in. He has this white spot over his nose, so it's good and important, I think, to keep that in. Okay, and once we get some of these lines in, like we'll just indicate, you know, that this is gonna be the fur. So I'm just gonna bring the top of the hair a little bit more out to the side here, and maybe bring this ear just a little bit more forward. So before we add the pen, you can make any adjustments. Look at the bunny and see if there's anything that just doesn't quite look right to you. And then we're gonna take our pen and we're going to outline this. And before I show you that, I just wanna show you what I usually do with the eye. Grab your marker, and what I'm gonna do first is this eye, and I'm zoomed in so that you can see how I'm gonna handle this part. And the rest of his body, I'll show you what I do with my pen. You can also do this part with your paintbrush. You can also add details like inside the ear. There's this line, you know, showing that. You can also add some whiskers. And really on the back and on the bottom, I'm just adding, it just kind of looks like grass. And now I'm gonna draw the little bow tie on, which I forgot about. So I'm just going to draw a box and I'm gonna tuck it under this fur. And tuck like a little collar, I guess, under. Add some lines on the top, some little lines showing that it's creased in there. And there you have the bow tie. Before we paint them in, you can go ahead and use your eraser to erase your pencil lines. Okay, I'm gonna put my paints on this just so you can see them, but I would not put them on your paper. Grab your watercolors, your paintbrush, your paper towel, and your scratch piece of paper, and we're gonna make a light brown. So I'm gonna use brown and blue. And this is the color we're gonna paint all over the bunny. Just remember that we're not going to paint the area above his nose. I'll show you the areas that we're gonna kind of leave. It's gonna be just above his nose, we're gonna leave white. And then he has this little area below his nose and then just on his lip. And remember when you're painting not to scrub your paper. So scrubbing means you're going over it more than once. And it's okay if you have like little white spots in there. You can use the tip of your paintbrush to paint in some of those really small areas. And again, don't worry if you have like little white areas, that's okay, especially in a painting like this where it's illustrative. If you want to add the texture of the fur, what you're going to do is get the paint on your brush and then you're going to smash it with your fingers. You're just going to flatten it and spread out the bristles of your brush so that it looks almost like fur. And then it's easier to paint that texture of fur once you smash it. And if it won't do this, you might have just a little bit too much paint, so just touch your paintbrush on the paper towel to get some of the paint off and then try again to just smash it. Okay, let's try to add some of that texture. All right, now we're gonna add some of that texture along with some shading. So I need a little bit more paint in here. And again, you can use just brown. I'm using brown with a little bit of blue in it. Feel free to use your test paper, Make sure you're getting the color that you want. Now I'm gonna paint in some of these lighter areas first. So it's a little bit lighter up here. So I'm just kind of, well, that's not dry yet. So let's start on the body because it looks a little bit drier. The fur is coming in the direction that it's growing. It's coming this way, pointing down. And then once you reach like this middle line, it's actually starting to go in this direction here. Then here, it's just coming down at an angle, and this isn't quite dry enough yet. Let's take that same color and we're gonna start painting some of these shadows on the face, and I'm not going to fan out my brush quite yet, so I wanna get some of these shadows in. Just carefully painting over that lighter color. And now I'm gonna start fanning my brush out once I get to these edges, making it look a little bit more like fur. I'm gonna take that same color in the middle of this and just add just a little bit of texture. Take that same color, it's really not that dark, but we do need just a little bit of contrast between this ear and the fur that's in front of it. Same with this one. And then I'm just mixing up a little bit more brown with some blue, and then we're gonna paint some of the shadows in under here and above his eyes. It still definitely needs to be a little bit darker. So we're just doing the next dark layer on there. Okay, in some of these areas, it's gonna be too soon to add the really dark areas. I'm gonna add some of this shading under here. And then this bunny has almost like calico look. It has like a lot of this black color in here and then in here. So let me just get some of this darker area over the eye. It's kind of just like a dark area up and around, and then we still need it to be darker above the nose. And on this side of the nose, and then just coming down. And maybe just a little bit under that top lip, some darker colors. And I painted over this bow, but that's okay. All right, now let's just add a layer of black in here, and you can still add, I mean, you can see, you can just keep going and adding in these areas unless you just want to keep it lighter. You can add in the ear. To get this more black brown color, I'm just using blue. You can just use black. So I'll show you what this looks like. And I'm just gonna smash my brush again and come in here in these areas with this color. I'm just adding that dark color up under here. And then he has it like under his ears in this spot right here. It's kind of like this little shadow. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of shading, just some color to his bow tie, making sure I don't mix it in with these other colors. I'm just gonna make a light blue with a tiny bit of green in it. And I'm just touching it on my paper towel to make sure I don't have too much paint on my brush, because I don't want it to bleed into the fur. And we can add a darker color after that dries. While we're waiting for that to dry, let's just add some grass underneath Oliver, I will call it. Just call him by his name. I'm just gonna add some green to this puddle, or some yellow, because I had that blue puddle. I'm gonna add a little bit of brown to it. Okay, now this part's kind of fun. The grass is very easy, and I'm just kind of gonna do the same technique I did with the fur. Just smashing my brush. And then I'm just gonna, and with watercolors, if this was acrylic, we could probably get it to overlap, but it's watercolor, so it's not gonna overlap him that well, and that's okay. You can go ahead and add some taller pieces in there if you wanted. Since we can see a little bit of this foot up here, instead of making it look like it's floating, you probably would wanna bring the grass up just a little bit around that. And then we can add a little bit of shading to that bow tie if you want. So underneath the green, I'm just gonna grab blue again, and to make it darker, I'm just gonna add brown. Or you can just add more blue. Make sure you touch it on your paper towel, especially if you're painting in a really little area. It's kind of hard to control if you have tons of paint on your brush. So I'm just adding a tiny, tiny bit of shading to the top of that bow, his little bow tie. So you could add a sky, you could add clouds, you could add whatever you want. But that is how I would draw Oliver. I think if I could see him and I knew this bunny, I could make his face look a little bit more like him. But I had this one picture, which is a really cute picture. Thank you for sending it. And yeah, so now you can add some details if you want. You can darken some things up, or you can just leave it like this. Also remember, you don't have to add the bow tie. You could add a little hat, some earmuffs, a scarf, so many different things, some earrings, whatever you would like. Anyway, thank you so much for painting with me, Ellie. I hope this is what you were looking for, and have a wonderful day.